a soldier walks under the snow. Beside him, hundreds of compatriots march. On the other side, a line of tanks advances, seemingly unstoppable. Hundreds of kilometers beyond is the city of Moscow, one of the targets of this German army that has just entered enemy territory. They assume that supplies will be arriving, that the cold will not pose a threat, and that the mission will go well. But things will not go as Adolf Hitler planned. It is June 22, 1941, and Operation Barbarossa, that is, the German invasion of the Soviet Union, is about to begin, and also about to put the first nail in Germany's coffin in World War II. If you want to find out what happened in one of the most iconic operations of this war, then join us and prepare to travel back in time. One might think that the Soviet Union was always on the Allied side, but that would be a mistake. In 1939, they had signed the Ribbentrop-Molotov Non-Aggression Pact and the German-Soviet Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation, and Demarcation. Both secretly set the German and Soviet spheres of influence for Eastern and Central Europe. The Soviet Union had negotiated an anti-fascist coalition with the United Kingdom. But, like Hitler, this nation was suspicious of communist intentions. However, the German chancellor understood the historical moment, and in September 1940, Germans and Russians invaded Poland within weeks of each other, kicking off the Second World War. After the conquest of France by the Nazi regime, the Soviets annexed Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, as well as territories of the Kingdom of Romania. Then came a point of tension with the Winter War, where the Russians painfully defeated Finland, a weakness that Hitler noted. The Chancellor could also see that the Red Army was close to the Romanian oil fields, essential for his industry. Therefore, the Soviet Union had to be ended before it was too late. He was to eliminate Bolshevik and Slavic Jews from the face of the earth. By December 1940, Operation Fritz was underway. Did we say Operation Fritz? Exactly, that was the original name. But the Chancellor decided that another word was needed and thought of Emperor Frederick Barbarossa, whose reign had represented the heyday of the Holy Roman Empire. Now, the operation had its definitive name, and according to Hitler's intentions, it acquired the tone of a true crusade of Europe against Asia. Before continuing, we must point out that this operation was set to begin in May 1941. But due to the ineffectiveness of its Italian allies to conquer Greece and a damaging coup in Yugoslavia, Germany had to intervene and delay the operation. About 3.5 million men, 3,000 tanks, 7,000 artillery pieces, and 2,500 aircraft were mobilized to the Eastern Front beginning at 3 a.m. on June 22, 1941. 150 ground divisions and 19 panzer divisions made up what was the largest and most powerful invasion force in history. More than 30 Finnish and Romanian troop divisions were also added. It is true that the Soviet Union had up to 3 times as many tanks and planes, not counting its soldiers. However, the Germans gave full credit to their war machine. In theory, nothing could go wrong with this army. Even more so considering that, on the opposite side, the Soviet forces had outdated aircraft along with poor logistics. However, the Wehrmacht ran into a number of enormous problems. The first one was the underestimation of the Red Army by German intelligence. They did not count on the fact that, once the 150 divisions they estimated were destroyed, the Soviets would have more than 200 divisions ready to go into action by mid-August, which would later be joined by experienced Siberian soldiers ready to face the worst climatic conditions. Second problem, the scorched earth policy, the same that the Russians had used against Napoleon Bonaparte. Burned fields, destroyed bridges, dismantled factories, and even destroyed railroads impeded German progress, as well as the shipment of supplies. In addition, the defensive determination of the Soviets brought about a completely different result from the one that the invaders had obtained in France, time and again blocking their ways. And the third major drawback, just as Napoleon had done more than 200 years ago, Hitler invaded the Russians in the dead of winter. If you're thinking about how tough that season must be in Russia, you're right. And there's something worse. That winter of 1941 came ahead of schedule. The rains turned the grounds into pure mud and clogged the German armor, while the snow ended up paralyzing them and incapacitating soldiers whose equipment was totally unsuitable for this weather. Remember the German delay due to their invasion of Greece and Yugoslavia? Now it's clear why that delay was so important. So let's move on to the development and outcome of the operation. To the north, General Wilhelm von Lieb's group was heading for the city of Leningrad. To the south, General Gerd von Rundstedt's troops and General Paul Ludwig von Kleist's panzer tanks were on their way to Kiev. And in the center, the main blow was in the charge of General Fedor von Bock, together with the tanks of Generals Heinz Guderian and Hermann Hoth, who had the mission of reaching both the city of Smolensk and the capital of Moscow. The front was almost 3,000 kilometers long, and the Russians were taken by surprise. Between July and September, the cities of Minsk, Smolensk, and Kiev fell, and within a week, the central group had taken over 300 kilometers. The movements puzzled and engulfed the defenders. But due to the events we have already mentioned, it became increasingly difficult for the Nazi army to advance. Despite having captured almost 3 million enemy soldiers, the men were tired after traveling long distances on foot. The coordination between the offensive groups was not fully consolidated. The Soviet T-34 tanks caused more damage than expected, and the authorities could not decide between taking Moscow, which was already just over 300 kilometers away, or advancing to the southeast. Time and time again, the Germans broke through the defenses of the Soviet Union, and time and again, the Soviet Union resisted. When Hitler agreed to attack Moscow in October, it was already too late. General Franz Halder, chief of the General Staff of the High Command of the German Army, wrote in his diary, "It is increasingly clear that we have underestimated the Russian Colossus. Whenever we destroy a dozen of their divisions, they put another 12 to replace them." In total, Germany had almost 800,000 casualties, with about 200,000 deaths, and lost more than 2,500 tanks and 3,500 aircraft. For its part, the Soviet Union exceeded 5 million casualties, with more than 800,000 dead and more than 20,000 tanks and 20,000 neutralized aircraft. In early December, the first major Soviet counteroffensive, ordered by General Georgy Zhukov, took advantage of the German restraint and attacked practically all its sectors. As much as the Red Army suffered heavy losses, Operation Barbarossa had failed. The Soviet triumphs in the battles of Moscow, Stalingrad, and Kursk would come soon. But that's another story. And now, it's time for us to ask you, do you think Operation Barbarossa was the event that marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany? Leave us your comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications to learn about many more military events that left their mark on history. Thank you very much for joining us, and until the next video.